So let me tell you what a water sign does at a party. They walk in, they say hello to exactly 3 people, and then they absorb all the emotions of everyone that's in the room without even being asked. They then scan the room, they identify the one who is hurting the most, and then they spend the whole night trying to make sure that that person feels seen. And then they go home completely exhausted from feelings that were never theirs to begin with.
And when you ask them how the party was, they say, oh, it was fine? Or
Yeah, it was fine. Because who's going to believe the full answer anyway?
So water signs are not exactly mysterious. They are just fluent in a language most people never learn to speak.
That's right. And as you know, I'm a Pisces sun with a Cancer moon. I also have 2 Scorpio sisters, a Cancer sun, and a Pisces sun, and a Scorpio moon daughter.
And I am an Aries sun and a Taurus moon who is raising a Pisces moon daughter and a Pisces moon sun. And that sun also has a Cancer sun. So lots of Pisces going on. So while Angela is water herself, I'm standing on the shore watching it in real time as a mother every single day.
Which makes you one of the most important voices in this episode because you can tell what it looks like from the outside, and that perspective is just as necessary as mine from the inside.
So today we go under Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, what they do to kind of perform for the world and what they're quietly drowning in. So if you've ever been called too sensitive or if you love someone who has, grab your headphones. We are going in deep.
Welcome back to Sacred Soul Roots Podcast, fam. Today we're going to go in deep with the water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. And I need you to understand something before we begin. Water signs are not delicate. They are not fragile. They are not too much, and they are the most emotional, intelligent people in any room that they walk into. And they spend most of their lives apologizing for it.
The golden rule still applies here. The sun is your performance, and the moon is your need. But with the water signs, the sun is already so interior, so already feeling oriented, that the split between performance and the need can almost be invisible from the outside, right? What looks calm on the surface is almost never calm underneath.
Yeah. And when we think about water and the modalities that they come with it, we have Cancer, which is cardinal water. So think of that as like the first tide, the initiating wave, the one that carves out the shore. It's the most proactive of all the water signs, nurturing as an action, not just a feeling. And then we move on to our fixed water sign, which is Scorpio. That is the still bottomless lake. What you see on the surface tells you absolutely nothing about what is happening way down deep underneath. And then we have Pisces, which is our mutable water. That is, think, an ocean itself, a fog, the dissolving current that has no fixed edges. It moves into everything and belongs to nothing.
So same element of water, but completely different currents. Let's go under.
Yeah, so why don't we start off with Cancer, since it's the cardinal sign. Cancer is the only sign in the zodiac that's ruled by the moon itself. So it's not a planet, the moon. And the moon rules cycles and tides and memory, the body and instincts, the emotional landscape of every human being who has ever lived. And if you think back to our water podcast, we talked a little bit about that connection between the moon and the waves. Well, that is very Cancerian. So when Cancer is ruled by that, Cancers become the most instinctively attuned sign in the entire will.
So walk us through what that actually means for a person, like inside.
Yeah, so a person with a Cancer sun, they've built their entire conscious identity around the lunar archetype, which means that their ego is so deeply woven with their feelings, with their home, and with that need to protect and be protected. They're not performing nurturing as a strategy. It is genuinely who they are. They see the world through the lens of who needs to be held right now, and am I the one that's supposed to be holding them?
That sounds beautiful, and it is. But what does the shadow part of the sign look like?
Ooh, I would say the shadow's the shell, because the crab has an armor for a reason. And a Cancer sun that has been hurt enough or dismissed enough or taken advantage of or been taken for granted enough, they'll retreat completely into that shell. And the people around them will just forget that there's something extraordinarily tender that's living inside of that protection. The nurturing stops and the walls come completely up. They're living with shell. And behind that walls, a Cancer sun is really one of the most quietly devastating things to witness, because they're not cold or keeping you out. They're just really wounded and hurt.
My son is a Cancer sun, and I watch this happen in real time. Like when he feels genuinely safe, he's cozy, he's at home with his people. He is the warmest, most generous, most emotionally present, and thoughtful little human ever. He's so sweet. And if he ever gets hurt, though, you can see that he does kind of go and retreat inside his shell. And you have to kind of wait a little while and be patient with him until he can find his way back out. You cannot like pull at him, like, come out. You have to hold that space and let him come back to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. My son's also Cancer sun. And that's one of the most important things anyone should know about somebody who's in Cancer, is that you can't drag them from their retreat. You can't force them to come out. You have to make the environment so that they feel completely safe, that they choose to return.
So let's talk about the Cancer moon, which is you, Angela. This is yours.
That is mine. Yeah. And so, a Cancer moon's not a personality. It's a nervous system. And what I mean by that is that when the moon, who's already the ruler of like instinct and emotional memory, when it governs the moon placement itself, you get the most emotionally permeable, somatically attuned, memory saturated emotional landscape in the zodiac. So that's a mouthful. But basically, a Cancer does not just feel things. They feel things with their entire body, with their bones, in the air that they breathe, before anything even happens. They are reading the room before they've even taken their coat off.
And that level of sensitivity, what does that mean? Does that have a cost or an issue with that?
It could cost everything if you don't know how to manage it, because a Cancer moon absorbs the emotion of every single person that they come in contact with. They absorb the environmental emotion without even choosing to. And it's not what I would call empathy as a skill. It's porousness, like default setting. You can't just turn it off. And the work of a Cancer's moon's life is learning to identify like what feeling is mine and belongs to me. Is that what I'm feeling? Is that mine? Or did I just walk through someone else's feelings and carry it home without me even realizing it?
So how do you learn to know the difference?
You learn to check in with your body before you go into an environment, especially when there's going to be a lot of people. And then when you leave, you check again. And if you feel something that wasn't there before and you can't really trace it back to like a specific thought or an incident that happened, you know that that's probably not yours. The practice is setting it down intentionally, the way that you put a bag down that doesn't belong to you.
So let's talk Cancer in love.
And the Cancer sun in love is the person who remembers how you take your coffee from 3 years after you have mentioned it once, who shows up with soup when you're sick before you've told anyone that you are sick. They could just hear it in your voice. They create a home, literally or energetically, around the people that they love, and they tend it with such an extraordinary care. They're not just loving you, they're building a world, an entire world around you.
This does make me think of my son who has the Cancer sun, because he is so thoughtful and sweet and always is like trying to take care of his mama. I just love that. So let's talk the shadow sign of the sign. What is the shadow in?
Well, the clinginess, it can actually be like terrifying because a Cancer sun is in like an insecure attachment, is not needy, they're afraid. And so they're afraid that if they let go even just a little bit, that the things that they've built will completely disappear and dissolve. So the grip is definitely a traumatic response, not a personality flaw. And the antidote is not distance, it's consistency. So having that reliable presence that teaches their nervous system that it's safe for them to loosen up that hold.
So now let's talk about the Cancer moon in love. What does that look like?
Well, that's me.
Mm-hmm.
And the Cancer moon, so they need to feel emotionally held before give anything. And I mean held, not just loved, not just present, but specifically and intentionally held. Eye contact, physical warmth, being asked about the feeling, not just the event. Like a Cancer moon who feels emotionally unsupported goes one of two directions. And that's either they'll collapse completely inward and disappear, or they'll start mothering every single person around them as a way of getting that nurturing that they need by proxy.
That second one is so real, like taking care of everyone else so you don't have to ask anyone to take care of you.
Exactly. And it works until it doesn't, until the Cancer moon runs completely empty and nobody around them even realizes that they needed anything, because they were so busy filling everyone else's cup up.
So talk to us about how a Cancer moon fights.
They don't usually, not directly. A Cancer moon in conflict goes indirect, like the mood shift, the withdrawal, the pointed silence. They suddenly become very busy and have a very busy schedule, avoidance. And they're not trying to be passive aggressive. They're trying to protect a heart that is genuinely terrified of direct confrontation. Because the last time that they were vulnerable in a conflict, something got broken and didn't fully heal. And that directness feels like standing in the middle of a room with no walls.
So what do? What actually works?
Gentleness first, always gentleness first. You can't logic a Cancer moon out of a hurt. You can't solve your way through their feeling. You have to acknowledge the thing before anything else happens. Like you can say things like, I can see that something is wrong and I want to understand it. That sentence alone can open a door that 3 hours of explanation just can't. For the Cancer sun, on the other hand, the integration work is like learning that the shell is not their home. It's their protection. And there is a huge difference. So home is where you are soft and known, and the shell is where you go when you don't feel safe yet. The work is being honest about which one you are living in and asking yourself rather the threat that puts you in the shell is still actually there, or rather you sealed yourself in so long ago that now you've forgotten why you were protecting yourself in the first place.
And for the Cancer moon, the work is radical ownership, because the Cancer moon is kind of in an unmanaged emotional state and does not just feel their feelings, they broadcast them. The whole room shifts, right? And the work is catching the feeling early, naming it clearly to yourself, and then deciding, is this mine processed properly, or is this something I need to bring someone in that I trust? Both are valid, right? But the choice kind of has to be conscious.
Exactly.
Cancer, are you nurturing from fullness or from depletion? Building a home or hiding in a shell? And if you love a Cancer, when was the last time you asked how they were and actually waited for a real answer?
So let's move on to Scorpio. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, the planet of death, transformation, and power, and the underworld, which means that Scorpio's entire emotional operating system is like built around one fundamental question. What is true underneath this? So not what appears to be true, not what you are presenting as truth, but what is actually true underneath everything in the dark.
This is why Scorpios are kind of known to make some people nervous, right?
Yeah, because they see you and they see you rather you want to be seen or not. They oftentimes have that like stare that like stares into your soul, and like you don't even want to like challenge them or make up a lie because it's like so intimidating. I have 2 Scorpio sisters, and I will tell you, There is no performance that survives contact with a Scorpio who loves you. They're not trying to expose you necessarily. They are just continuously incapable of being satisfied with surface answers, surface versions of anything you try to give them. They want the real thing, or they just want nothing at all.
So what does that feel like from inside the relationship with the Scorpio?
You have some personal experience with this as well, right?
Yes, both my dad and brother are Scorpio sons. Yeah.
Yeah, intense.
True. Yeah.
Inside a relationship, it's like being known in a way that is simultaneously the most kind of intimate, but it's a very terrifying experience of your life, because it's like you can't really lie to them, and if you try to give them an answer that's not full and in depth, they just keep on digging and digging and digging and digging. They're like those investigators. My old teacher, Lori from 3 Keys Astrology, she's the one that taught me astrology, but she would also call like the Scorpios the investigators, but
detectives, right?
The detectives, yeah. They like to really dig in there. It's an intensity that they just can't put down. And that is so true. Like growing up, my sisters didn't let me hide at all from them, from myself, or from anything. And I'm a Pisces sun with a Cancer's moon, so I'm naturally inclined to just kind of dissolve into whatever the emotional climate is, and to try to soften things and to avoid the uncomfortable truth if avoiding it is an option. And my sisters did not give me that option at all. They've made me more honest than I would have ever been on my own. That's the benefit of that.
Right. It's kind of like a gift and kind of a curse. And I'm just kidding. No, it's a profound gift, right?
It is, and it's also exhausting because Pluto does not do casual. Like, every conversation has a potential to go all the way down to the bone. Like, every interaction carries the weight of everything that's underneath it. So that is the cost of intimacy with a Scorpio, is that you do not get to stay shallow. They will find the depths where you are ready to go down deep or not.
I think that's a really good way to describe the Scorpio sun. Yes, they love to go deep, and there's not a lot that you can keep hidden from them, basically, right? It's like they look right through you. They see right into the core of who you are. So let's talk about like the Scorpio moon now. And Angela, your daughter Cameron has this placement. So tell us.
She does. And watching a Scorpio moon develop in a child is really extraordinary. Scorpio moon doesn't experience emotion the ways that other placements do. They experience them as full body transformation. So when Cameron feels something, like really feels it, her entire being resonates around that feeling. And she cannot perform wellness when she's not feeling well. She cannot pretend a feeling isn't happening. She goes through it completely every time, and she comes out the other side different than how she started off and went in.
That sounds like that can be intense for a child dealing with that, right? A little bit?
It is intense. I remember when she was a toddler, and I would say about every 6 months she would have a huge blow up because she was so good all the other times. Like, she would always listen, always well polite, never threw fits. But about every 6 months she would have a full blown fit, like lay on the ground, kicking and screaming. And usually for like, maybe she dropped a donut on the ground, like for no reason that I saw that was like worthy of this huge blow up. But it was like, she worked her way through it. And, it was very intense. But the gift of parenting a Scorpio moon is that you cannot be superficial with them at all. And she'll not accept a surface level answer from you, or a dismissive response, she needs the truth, and delivered with care, of course. And she needs to know that you can handle her intense flinching. Like, the moment she senses that you're uncomfortable with the depths of what she is feeling, she'll close off. And a closed Scorpio moon is a long, slow, difficult road back to reopening. And we'll shift from the darkness into the love here for a minute. So a Scorpio in love is like the most all or nothing experience in the zodiac. So a Scorpio sun does not fall in love with you. They merge with you. They want complete access to your interior. They want to know all your fears, your wounds, your secrets, your shame, not because they're invasive, but because for Scorpio, love that doesn't go to the depths isn't love. It's just company.
Right. That's that whole intensity of the Scorpio sun. So what about the shadow side?
Control of love. Yeah, I would say that it's control. Because when a Scorpio sun is afraid, they're truly afraid of losing you, of being betrayed by you, or having the thing that they've given everything to be taken away from them. They can move from merging to possessing without fully realizing. And that intensity, that feels devotion starts to look more like surveillance. Like, it's intense. And the antidote for that is not distance. It's radical transparency that teaches the Scorpio's nervous system that you don't need to control this because it's not going anywhere.
So what about the Scorpio moon in that?
So the Scorpio moon doesn't trust very quickly, and they don't give access to their interior self easily at all either. They'll test you, and sometimes consciously, sometimes not, but they'll test you to see if you're actually capable of handling what lives underneath their surface. And if you pass their test, you stay. And if you prove that the depth doesn't scare you, then the loyalty that you'll receive is 100% absolute. It's unconditional. It's the kind of loyalty that most people spend their whole looking for and just never find.
And I've heard about Scorpios being like betrayed. So betrayal is its own conversation when it comes to the Scorpio. Tell us about
Scorpio does not forgive betrayal easily. And I say this not as criticism, but as a piece of genuine information. A Scorpio moon who has been truly betrayed by someone they love does not just feel hurt. Something in them changes, it transforms. The person they were before the betrayal happened and the person that they were after are not the same. The trust that was broken doesn't just need to be rebuilt, it needs to be almost alchemized into something completely different than what existed in the first place. Sometimes that can hold the reality of what's happened and still choose to move forward. But it's really hard for them to do that. That's not easy, and it isn't fast. It's a slow process. And anyone who's tried to rush it, they will just lose the Scorpio entirely.
Well, since you have quite a few Scorpio women in your life, how do you notice like how they handle conflict?
They're direct in a way that can feel like surgery. Yeah.
Oh.
Like, I mean, you remember my sisters. They don't circle the issue. They go straight in with precision that is actually, I mean, as they've gotten older, I would say that they bring in more kindness. And even when it doesn't feel kind in the moment, they do come in with a little bit more kindness, but they still go directly in. And they'd rather have the difficult truth on the table than let something fester underneath the surface, especially in real over the slow rot of avoiding it.
Yeah, the Scorpios are kind of known for being, like you said, the detectives, the investigators, the truth seekers. They're wanting that truth, even if it's ugly. Put it on the table, let's deal with it. They like go directly there, right?
Yeah. And there's really no topic that's like taboo for them. That's one of the things I love about Scorpios is that they're not really super judgmental. Like, you can go to those topics and talk to them about things that you might not talk to somebody else about, like, you don't have to mind your P's and Q's as much about topics when it comes to taboo topics. They actually love that stuff and will eat it up.
That is true. My brother was always interested in kind of like astrology and palm reading and lucid dreaming. And even when he was young, he would talk to me about this stuff. And I always found it fascinating that he was so fascinated by it. But he was always very interesting and loved to talk about, like you said, nothing's taboo. Like anything can be talked about and researched and discovered. And that's exciting about that sign.
They do. They really dig in and they will discover whatever they're interested in. That's their, they have that studiousness that's kind of like our Gemini, where we can connect to them. We're both April and I risings, and we like to dig in and learn. And I mean, that's kind of like that investigator of that Scorpio we can really connect with, because they like to learn and know and embody and get to the depths of things, like the good, the bad, the ugly. Like, yeah. It's a really cool sign. But since we talked about some of the things that are good and bad about Scorpio, now let's kind of move on to like the integration and how to work with this type of energy. So for the Scorpio sun, the integration work is learning that vulnerability is not the same as weak. Like the Scorpio's armor, the intensity, that control, the strategic withdrawal, it's extraordinarily effective at keeping you safe. And it keeps thing a Scorpio sun can do is let someone see the wound before it has been transformed into wisdom. Like letting somebody in, not the healed version of the wound, the actual wound, like that depths that they are always seeking in others. And it's almost always the depths that they're afraid to offer themselves.
You're right. Even though they love to get at other people's secrets or like just knowing everything about someone, they do tend to like a sense of privacy about themselves. Not that they're necessarily secretive, but they do keep their cards kind of close to their chest, it seems like, right? So let's talk Scorpio moon. How do we integrate with Scorpio moon? What are some bits of advice for a Scorpio moon?
Yeah, so the work here is actually learning that not every feeling is a transformation and not every relationship is a test for loyalty. Like sometimes things hurt and it's not a betrayal. And sometimes someone is distracted and it's not a withdrawal of love. The hypervigilance, the constant reading of the subtext and the motives is the Scorpio's moon's greatest gift. And it's also their most like exhausting liability. Like just learning to let some things be surface level, to like let some interactions be simple. Yeah, that takes practice though. It can take years, but once they learn that, it can change everything for them. So Scorpio, are you testing the people who love you or are you letting them in? Is the control keeping you safe or keeping you alone? And if you love a Scorpio, are you showing up consistently enough to teach their nervous system that they do not have to guard against you? Ooh, let's move into Pisces. So Pisces is ruled by Neptune in modern astrology. This is the planet of dreams and disillusion, mysticism, and the collective unconscious. But before Neptune was discovered, Pisces was ruled by Jupiter. And as we spoke about last week, Jupiter also ruled Sagittarius. And so my relationship with my husband's going to make a little bit more sense when you start learning Jupiter also ruled Pisces at one time. And just as a recap, Jupiter is that horizon seeking that still lives underneath everything that Pisces does. You can feel both of these planets at work here. Neptune piece is the disillusion, the porousness, the blurring of boundaries between self and others, between being and invisible. And then Jupiter is the faith, the deep, unshakable beliefs that something larger is at work. So, which means a Pisces sun is operating in overwhelming than most people experience.
And you, my dear, are a Pisces sun, and I love a Pisces sun. I love you. But tell us what it's like to be a Pisces sun. Describe it from the inside.
So, I would say that it's like having the volume turned up on everything all the time. So, the beauty can be overwhelming. Like, I am moved by music, by lights, by a sentence in a book, by the ways someone can hold the door for me or for another stranger. And the pain is just as acute. Like, I absorb the world's suffering like sponge absorbs. Watch certain things or read certain things or news stories because it's not that I'm super fragile, but the boundaries between what I'm feeling and what the world is feeling is genuinely thin in a ways that requires active management most of the time.
So how do you manage it?
Water, literally water. Okay. I need to be near water. I need to shower when I feel overstimulated with other people's energies, wash their energy off. I need time in genuine solitude by myself, not just like physical solitude, but interior silence, like to find out where the world's feeling ends and where does mine begin. And I need creative expression. For me, it's like writing, it's teaching. It's this is my creative expression. Yeah, Neptune has to be an outlet. It will flood the basement. It will flood me completely.
So we know every sign has its shadow. So talk to us about the Pisces sun shadow. What does it look like when Neptune isn't working well?
Ooh, disappearing, I would say. Like a Pisces sun under stress, they don't retreat into a shell the same way that Cancers do. They just dissolve. They become so agreeable or so accommodating or so willing to become whatever the situation requires them to be that after a while, even they can't locate themselves. They don't know what's inside of them, or they can't locate themselves inside a relationship. The work is the practice of knowing where you end and another person begins, and refusing to give that up. Like, even when giving it up would make everything.
And it's a sign, like the symbol for the Pisces, a fish going in opposite directions.
Yeah.
So you kind of feel this from the inside a little bit, right?
Absolutely. It's kind of like the yin yang, or the in and the out, swimming in two separate directions, the self and the outside, for sure. And I do feel this from the inside. I've spent a significant part of my professional life in some of the hardest spaces that exist, dealing with some of the hardest life events where I'm not allowed to fall apart. And I've had to learn very quickly how to cut my feelings off in the moment. Not because I didn't feel it, but because the job required me to keep moving and do the next thing. And as a Pisces sun with a Cancer moon, I feel everything. So what I've learned to do is compartmentalize, like literally a work life, my personal life, the hard parts, the parts that I'm not allowed to show. And over time, that compartmentalizing becomes so practiced that I started losing parts of myself in it. I couldn't find where the professional walls end and the real me began. Like, I started to kind of dissolve and dissociate from the pieces of myself so that I could function. So I could just get through my day, get through my work day. And so I'm so very thankful to not be in those hard moments every day of my life anymore, because it's a lot easier to not have to compartmentalize so much.
Yeah, that sounds like that would be tricky, especially with the type of work you've done, which has been pretty deep and all encompassing, right? So when you come home to someone who loves you, how does that feel? Like when you've had to compartmentalize, do you still feel kind of completely alone with these things going on that you've had to deal with, or what is that like?
Yeah, so you can feel deeply alone. And listening to broadcast from last week, it's not, it was a lonely time, and it was deeply confusing. And because the person sitting across from me is not doing anything wrong, my husband needs his space to decompress the way that a Sagittarius moon needs space. And I need to be held the way that a Cancer moon needs to be held. And sometimes still, neither of us have the language for what is actually. We just both feel the distance and don't know how to close it.
So what finds you? What brings you back?
I would say for me, staying spiritually connected. That's my honest answer. Like, not hiding from the people who love me, even when hiding feels safer, making myself out there and do things, learning to listen to something that's higher than me, listening to something that's higher than the noise of all the compartments within me. Because Pisces sun is actually built for that. Neptune and Jupiter, they both are rulers of pointing towards something larger than the individual self. And that spiritual connection was never something that I had to build from scratch. It was something that was just there from the beginning. I just had to stop cutting myself off from it every time the work would get heavy. And that thread back to myself, that's protecting above everything else.
That makes sense. So now you have a son who has a Pisces sun. How does that play out? What does that look like in him?
Yeah, so Ryder is the most immediately empathetic person that I've ever parented. Obviously, he knows. He walks into a room, he can look at me, and if something feels off, he knows. But because he's young, he doesn't have the language all the time for it yet. And he just feels it in his body as kind of a restlessness or a heaviness that he can't really name, doesn't really know if it's directly coming from me. So he asks a lot of questions, and I have to be really open and honest about my feelings, which I've been able to, I don't know, for some reason society says we have to hide our deep sad feelings from our family. Or if I'm upset because maybe his dad and I aren't getting along, like he can feel that. Like, there is no hiding anything from them. But parenting a Pisces sun is like teaching them to trust that knowing, while also teaching them that they have to take the responsibility for every feeling that they encounter. Both things at once. Trust the feeling, but not every feeling is there.
Yes, and water signs have that ability to sense and feel and be intuitive about what's going on around them. And doesn't he have something very extraordinary in his chart? What was that?
Yeah. So Ryder has a 0 degrees Pisces sun, and he also has a 0 degrees Neptune in Pisces. And I need people to understand that what that actually means. So 0 degrees of any sign is called the critical degree of initiation. So it is a sign in its most raw, unfiltered, just arrived on the planet form. Like, there's no build up, no runway, just immediately complete immersion in that energy from the very first breath. And Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces. So it's the planet that governs like our dreams, our disillusions, our beliefs, the mysticism, and also the collective unconscious is what it also rules over. And so most people born during the Neptune and Pisces generation have it somewhere else in their chart, not at 0 degrees, like Ryder has it. And Ryder has it in the sign it rules at the exact same critical degree as his sun. So he's not just a Pisces, he's a Pisces at its most elemental, undiluted, most complete self.
It sounds powerful. What is that like to parents?
It feels like parenting someone who has arrived already knowing something. Like, he can tune into the frequency that most people spend their whole lives trying to access. The empathy is immediate and it's total. And he does not have to try to feel what the other people around him are feeling. He's already feeling it. Like, even before he has word, before he can even understand, it's in his body. Can sometimes be a heaviness or a tightness, a particular kind of restlessness that tells him something happening in the emotional field around him, even when everything looks calm on the surface.
Wow, so he really feels it in his body. And like you said, it's that sponge that is able to just absorb these energies and these emotions. Wow. So, and the sleep, didn't you mention in the last podcast, last time we met on this, the circadian rhythm and kind of how he's a little different, which makes me think of the Neptune and like the ruler of dreams and stuff. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, that's spot on. Because ever since he was an infant, like, there's something with him that his clock's a little shift. And the late hours when the rest of the world goes quiet and noise starts to settle, especially in the house, those are his hours. He's always been this way. And I used to try to correct it the way, most parents do, thinking something was off. But the more I understand his chart and the more I understand that this is not a dysfunction, Neptune rules those hours. And the threshold between night and day, where the boundaries between the visible and the invisible world is at its thinnest. And so it makes a lot of sense that Ryder would naturally be attuned to those hours, because that's when his frequency can actually breathe. Like, the world is too loud in the daytime for him, and at night his signal is able to be more clear.
So like you mentioned before, he would have made an awesome watchman in another era, another time, right? He'd be the one that was keeping watch.
He absolutely would have. Absolutely. The person trusted with the hours when everyone else is asleep. And your son has a Pisces moon, right? He's Cancer sun, Pisces moon, which means his emotional body is completely fluid and completely receptive. So he's not just feeling his own feelings, he's feeling everyone's in the house as well.
Yes, lots of feelings. The parenting challenge with him is creating enough space and structure and safety that all those feelings, they have somewhere to land, somewhere to go. So he needs like a safe container. And without it, I think the Pisces moon just keeps absorbing all those feelings and energies and not having somewhere to, put them. So it's important for him to have a safe container as well as kind of an outlet for all these feelings that he's absorbing and dealing with for himself too.
Absolutely. Interesting when we start looking at our kids by their planets and, like seeing their personalities and understanding where some of those things we didn't understand before might come from, right? Like I've been enjoying that a lot, like kind of looking at them through this lens. Yeah. So let's move on to love. So Pisces in love is, they say it's the most romantic sign of all the zodiac. And I say that as someone who lives inside of it. A Pisces sun in love doesn't just love you, they see you. The ideal version of you. Like, they see the potential that you have and they love you for that. They see the version of you before the world got to you. And they love it all at the same time, and they will hold that version of you even when you cannot hold it for yourself.
I know Pisces, so sweet and loving and like this warm energy is how I think of you, and always like a sense of safety and like non-judgmental love. It's so sweet. So talk to us about the shadow side of it.
So the shadow side of that is, and I think I've been guilty of this before, but loving the idea of you more than the reality of you. So a Pisces sun can stay in a relationship long past its expiration date because they are in love with the potential. They're in love with that spiritual connection, that feeling of merging, even when the reality, the practical reality, is telling them something entirely different. Like Neptune dissolves discernment sometimes. And the work is learning to let what is real be real. And when the dream version is more beautiful, but still realizing that that's the dream version.
So now what about a Pisces moon in love?
The Pisces moon needs a love that feels like a soul recognition, not just a compatibility, a resonance. They're not looking for someone who checks all the boxes. They're looking for someone who feels like home to them in a way that they cannot always explain. Like they feel like every door is open, every room is available. And that complete openness is both the gift and the wound of the Pisces moon in love, because not everyone knows how to be careful with something that or someone that offers itself so completely, like so transparently.
So how would a Pisces moon protect itself?
They don't very well. The defense mechanism of a Pisces moon is fantasy, retreating into like that interior world that is softer and more beautiful than what is actually happening on the outside. Which is why Pisces moons need partners who are honest, even when that honesty is super uncomfortable. Because a Pisces moon left alone with their own imagination, well, they'll often construct a more hopeful reality than the one that actually exists. They might find themselves with the internal pull towards the dreams where it's strong and not always understand what's happening in reality. We talked a lot about like the Pisces moon and how they live in a dream world, and it's very true. But I want to point out and recognize, because there might be some Pisces out there that's like, my dream world is not all la roses and sunshines. And that could be true too. So sometimes hearing the truth is important, not because we're living in a dream world of things are better there. Sometimes we're living in a dream world of where it's worse, and we come up with negativity that we're living in. And so the truth becomes even more important for us to hear.
I think you're right. That is a good importance. That's not always just dreamy and fantastical and amazing, but also could be, if they're not getting the truth or hearing what is real, they might start having a different type of, dream, more of a nightmare built around a situation that could be unnecessary. Yeah. Had they just been given the truth and clarity. That makes sense. So how does a Pisces moon like deal with conflict and fighting? What does that look like?
They don't really fight, they absorb. So they take the conflict into their body and it lives there as a physical sensation, like a heaviness, a tightness, a particular kind of grief that just like sits in their chest. And they may not say anything at all. And The silence is not indifferent, it is like more saturation. They're so full of feelings that language has stopped being available. And what they need is time and water, that physical water, and the knowledge that the relationship is still intact, even when that feeling is being processed. And so just to kind of bring it back to like integrating like how the energy works for each of these. So the Pisces sun, the integration work is the practice of boundaries. And you've known me for a really long time, and you've known sometimes those boundaries can get pretty blurry. So not necessarily putting up a wall, but a boundary, a clear, gentle, honest line that says, this is where I end. This feeling is not mine. This situation is not my responsibility to absorb or fix. And you can be a deeply feeling, deeply connected human being and still have a self that remains intact and separate from those. And that those two things are not in conflict with one another, but it requires like daily deliberate practice, especially for a sign whose entire nature is to just dissolve.
That makes sense, is finding that balance. Yes. And what about a Pisces moon?
Creative expression is not an option. It's medicine. The Pisces moon that is not creating something is like a Pisces moon that is flooding internally. So them needing to write, to paint, to sing, to move, to cook, to build, to learn a new skill. Anything that takes that feeling that lives inside of them and gives it a form outside the body. And the other piece is discernment about who gets access to their interior. So not everyone has earned that room, right? The Pisces moon tends to give access really freely to people, and they can feel invaded by the very people that they let in sometimes. So the boundary at the door is what they need to practice. And they just need to know that they can be soft inside and still care about who comes in. So Pisces, are you in love with the person or the idea of the person? Are you giving yourself away or giving from your abundance? And if you love a Pisces, are you being honest with them, even when the truth is harder than the dream they're holding? So to bring us back to the water signs, here's the thread that's connecting all three of these signs when you strip everything back to the primary core. So we have the moon, we have Pluto, and we have Neptune. These are three completely different depths, three completely different ways of knowing.
Okay, so let's recap. So Cancer knows through feeling and through memory. The body remembers. The instinct reads the room. And the nervous system kind of keeps score even when the conscious mind might have already forgiven and has moved on. But the body keeps score.
Exactly. Scorpio knows through excavation. And they go underneath, they find the thing that no one wanted to name, and they name it anyway. Because for Scorpio, the truth underneath is always more trustworthy than the story on the top.
That's right. They're good detectives. And then Pisces. Pisces knows through dissolution. They feel what the room feels before the room even knows it. They see what you could be before you even see it yourself. And that's beautiful. Their knowing is not intellectual, it is oceanic. It arrives as a feeling in the body, maybe a dream, a symbol, some sort of certainty that has no rational explanation and doesn't need one.
And the moon in all three of these signs makes the planetary knowing and makes our emotional survival system. The moon of all three of these signs takes the planetary knowing and makes it the emotional survival system. The Cancer moon protects through nurturing. The Scorpio moon protects through depth and discernment. And the Pisces moon protects through disillusion, by becoming so fluid that nothing can get a grip.
Water signs are not necessarily the most sensitive people in the room, but they are the most accurate. And learning to live in a world that often mistakes accuracy for weakness, that is the real work.
Same water, complete different current. Same depth for completely different reasons. And now you know why.
So tell us in the comments where your water placements are, and tell us if this cracks something open for you, and if you've ever been told you're too much. We see you. You are not too much. You are exactly enough.
Exactly enough. And before we go, let's do our get rooted, something you can actually do, not a concept to think about, a practice to return to.
Right, let's do it sign by sign. And let's go Cancer first because home.
So if you have a Cancer sun, your one thing is a daily threshold ritual. So before you leave your home or when you return, 30 seconds, both times. When you leave, name one thing that is yours, one feeling, one intention, one thing you are carrying that belongs to you.
And if you love a Cancer sun, your one thing is consistency. Not necessarily grand gestures, just consistent, predictable, reliable presence. The same check-in, the same follow-through, the same showing up. A Cancer sun's nervous system learns safety through that repetition. Every time you do what you say you're going to do, you make the shell a little less necessary. And if you love a Cancer moon, ask the real question, not "Are you okay?" They will say yes. Ask, "What are you carrying right now that you haven't told anyone?" And then be still. Listen. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to solve it. And don't minimize it. Just receive it. The act of being received without being fixed is really the most healing thing that a Cancer moon can experience.
Yeah, and if the Cancer moon is yours, your one thing is a body check-in 3 times a day. Morning, midday, evening. Not how you are thinking. How is your body? Where is the tension, the heaviness, the holding? And then ask, did I put this here? Or did I walk through someone else's feelings and forget to put it down? You do not have to fix what you find. Just identify it. The act of naming alone is discharging. And then moving on to Scorpio. If you have a Scorpio sun, your one thing is a weekly truth-telling practice with yourself. So not about others, about you. One thing you are feeling that you have not admitted out loud. One fear you are managing instead of moving through. And one desire you have dismissed as unrealistic. Write it down. Say it out loud to someone safe. Scorpio's power comes from the truth, including the truth about themselves. The excavation work that works so well outwards should be turned inwards too. And if you have a Scorpio moon, your one thing is to distinguish between intuition and vigilance. So when you feel that something is wrong, before you act on it, is this my knowing or is this my wound? Scanning for evidence. Both are real. Both deserve attention, but they require very different responses. Intuition says something is happening, and vigilance says something is about to happen. Learning the difference between those two signals is the practice of a lifetime, and it starts with the pause before the reaction.
And if you love a Scorpio sun, show them your real self. Not the version you curate or perform, not the best angle, but your actual interior, your fear, your uncertainty, your even unresolved things. A Scorpio sun cannot trust a performance, but they will go to extraordinary lengths to protect someone who has trusted them with what is real, right? So give them something real and watch what happens. And if you love a Scorpio moon, your one thing is reliability over time. Not one grand gesture of trustworthiness, but an accumulation of small ones. Every time you say a thing and do it. Every time you notice something without being told. Every time you stay when the depth gets a little uncomfortable. A Scorpio moon's trust is not given. It is built over time, slowly out of evidence. Be that evidence.
So moving on to Pisces. If you have a Pisces sun, your one thing is water, like literally water, daily. Rather that be a bath, a long shower, time near the ocean, a river, a lake, even a fountain. Like water is your reset. Yes, drink it up. It is the only element that genuinely dissolves what you have absorbed without requiring you to name or process it consciously. So when you feel overstimulated or overextended, invisible even to yourself, water first, everything else after. And if you have a Pisces moon, your one thing is to make something this week. Anything. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be finished. It doesn't even have to be shared. The Pisces moon that is not creating, flooding internally. The feeling has nowhere to go, and it starts to feel like confusion, exhaustion, or even nameless grief. So give the filling a form outside of your body. That is the medicine every single time.
I have to say, my Pisces moon daughter has been baking something new literally every day. It's pretty amazing. During summer break, she's finding new recipes in her cookbook and is baking, and it's just amazing.
Yeah.
So that's sounds like it's good for her as a Pisces moon.
Yeah.
And if you love a Pisces sun, your one thing is to be honest before they have to ask, because a Pisces sun will construct a hopeful story around whatever information they are given, and then they will live in that story. So if something is true and they need to know it, well, go ahead and say it gently, clearly, before the story gets built around its absence. Their imagination is a gift. Don't let it become a substitute for the truth. So if you love a Pisces moon, give them the ocean when you can, like literally if possible too, like a drive to the water, a day near the river, even a walk in the rain. And if the literal ocean is not available, well then maybe a warm bath drawn for them, a playlist that feels like water, a space cleared of everything that is demanding something. The Pisces moon needs to dissolve sometimes, and your job is not to hold it all together for them. Your job is to hold the space where they can come back to themselves.
Love that. That's your get rooted for this episode. So just pick one that landed for you, the one that felt like it knew something about you, because you never know what you have in a water sign as far as your planets go. So pick one.
Yep, and the one you pick, that one is yours.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
All right, lots of love. Sending love. Thank you.